Hey everyone, welcome to my latest episode. In this episode, we're going to talk about how to calculate the freight, which is a simplified case, but will cover a lot of situations where you may face in the reality. Here I have a lot of other cases that we're going to talk about in the future. Today, we're going to focus on only the freight calculation. Freight calculation, actually, you first receive a rate card from your manager, and based on that rate card, you may have different input. For example, here we have two parameters to put. We need to provide province and also provide the weight. With these two, and we're going to work out what's the actual charge going to apply to the customer. So these two with different combinations, you may play around, have different calculations. Here, if a rate card is a little bit hard to read, so let me explain to you. So column B is telling you for a freight, for a parcel, what's the destination of that parcel. And here is all talking about weight related matters. For example, if our weight is between 0 to 1, 3.5 will be the freight to charge on the parcel. If the weight is between 1 and 2, it's going to be 4, so on and so forth. But the cutoff is become a little bit hard to tell is here. So when the freight is beyond the 3, which is the threshold, we're going to charge the customer, still charge the customer, but with different calculations. When it's beyond the point of 3, we're going to charge for the first kilogram, we're going to charge 3.5. And for the rest, which is the total weight minus 1, the rest, we're going to use the rest times the column G. So in the case of 6 kilogram, we're going to charge them in two parts. The first is the first kilogram. And second is the thing that beyond the first kilogram. So for 6, we're going to charge the first kilogram for 3.5. For the rest, here we just write down the equation. We're going to use 6 minus 1. So this is telling us for the first 3.5, 1 kilogram I've charged, how much I haven't charged. For the part I haven't charged, I'm going to time that column G, which in this case is 1. So we can move this to here. Done. So basically, this is how we manually charge a freight to New South Wales with the weight 6. So 8.5 is what we're going to charge. So here our result has shown that for a 3.1 we charge customer 6.86. Let's just evaluate if this works. So NT is this line. Okay, so now if I change this to 3.1, it's not changed. That's fine. It's just here we need to change. So here, let me just write this 6 rather than I'm going to reference here. So more clear. You can copy this down. So for this 3.1, how we charge? For the one out of this 3.1, for the first kilogram, we charge 3.5. For the rest, which is 3.1 minus 1, we're going to charge at the rate of 1.6. So that's why we got 6.86, which is matching here. So this is a manual calculation that we try to cave this into a formula to help us easy understand. So in this case, I provide two solutions, either use ifs and or if. If will be more simpler. Ifs is when you have more situation to cope with, you can use ifs. So let's copy the title. Okay. So our case is the same and the state is the same. Weight is the same as well. It's only this part, the charge part. So first, let's work out the situation is under or equal to 3. That will be very easy because what we're going to do is we're going to use index and match, look up a value in this particular array from C3 to E5. And we're going to use this to find a row and this to find a column. Why I'm going to use this, I'm going to tell you later on. So first, let's write the formula equal to index. For the array, it's going to be easy just from the C3 to E5. And we're going to lock this array. And once this has been done, we go into the next argument, which is the row number. Row number, we're going to use the match. Match value going to be the B21. And in this case, we're going to find due B21 from the column B3 to B5. We lock that again. This time, we need to find exact match because destination, there's no variation of the destination. New South Wales is an SW, there's no other choices. So put 0. Now we find the row. We need to find a column because if you only provide row, you will have 3 columns. We need to provide a column to have the cores or have the intersection ready, right? Now we're going to use match again. This time we're going to look up the value is the weight 3, which is a C21. Now we're going to say lookup array. Lookup array here, I'm using this one. Okay, let's lock it first. Move on to the next one. Okay, why provide 0, 1, 2 from the cell C1 to E1 is because here we're going to use argument here, less than. When you provide less than, you need to find the lower value of a band. A band is a range. Here we have 3 bands. First band is from 0 to 1. Second band from 1 to 2. Third band from 2 to 3. If we want to use less than, we're going to choose the lower value in the band. In this case, for C1, we choose 0, which is the lower band of 0 to 1. Here, D1, we choose 1 because 1 is the lower value of the band 1 to 2. And so on and so forth, we choose 2 for the band of 2 to 3. So let's put 1. Close the parentheses. We have another parentheses to close. We hit enter. Now we have find 5. So New South Wales 3 will be 5. Let's change this value, see our formula, if our formula is correct or not. I've choose a value from 2 to 3, which is 3. I choose a value like say 1.5, which is the second band. 1.5. So supposed to return 4. This works. And 0 to 1, let's try another value, 0.5. 3.5. So it's working. If I change this to, for example, this one I change to 3. I know that for NT is 9, right? So I can change this to NT to check if my formula is okay. Now this update to 9. So it's corresponding, it's correct. So let's change this back to New South Wales. Now for the first situation, if the freight is between 0 to 3, we have figured out. The technique we're using is index and match. Index define array. 2 matches find row number and also column number. For the row number, we're using exact match here, 0. For the column number, we're using approximate match, which is less than. Here, a trick is that you need to anchor the lower point of a band to have it work. Now let's move on to the second situation, which is when the freight is beyond the point of 3. How we do that? Like we said before, we have 2 parts to calculate in the second scenario. First, you need to figure out for the first kilogram which row we need to use to find out the fixed charge. And then second part is beyond that one fixed charge, what's the addition rate we're going to attract for each of the addition, right? So let's just say equal to. So in this situation, we're going to easily use XLOOKUP. XLOOKUP this time, we're going to look up the value, which is NT. And array is going to be effort to lock it. The return, remember the first one we're going to calculate is in the column F, so which is this one. Here the case is all 3.5, so that's okay. When you have different variations, your lookup value is going to be different. And then we close that. So what I'm saying is whenever you provide a province, I will provide you for the first kilogram charge. And this is under a condition where your freight is greater than 3, okay? We hit enter. So it's already fine 3.5. Let's change NT to 4.5. Okay, so at least this is working. And then we add. Now we need to add a second part, which is calculate the difference between the one that we have calculated and also the thing that we haven't calculated. In this case, I'm going to use this weight to minus 1. The reason we minus 1 is because the freight for this part has already been included in this part, right? We look up the column F to find the first kilogram charge. That's why we need to subtract it from the rest of the calculation. And for the rest calculation, I'm going to use this times whatever column I can look up in the column G, right? So in this case, I can copy the whole thing. This part, I'm not going to look at if. I can just change this to G. This to G. So what I'm saying is, for the first kilogram, we're going to charge it column F. After the first kilogram, I'm going to charge it column G. So that's simple as that. We hit OK. So 3.5, I'm going to charge 7.86, which is matching here, which is great. Now we have mimicked two scenarios: when the freight is below 3, when the freight is beyond 3. Now we just put them together. How we put them together? Because this is a situation you need to evaluate true or false, which you need to triage the message into different flow, right? So significantly, we're going to use if. So equal to if. So what we're going to say is and. We're going to say if this one is greater than equal to 0, and this value again less than 3 and less than equal to 3. When this argument is true, which is telling us the freight is between 0 to 3, we're going to use the value whatever provided in the D21, right? So let's just write that, copy the whole thing. So we can rewrite that. If, logical test again, if this value greater than equal to 0 and this value less than equal to 3, if this is true, we're going to use that thing. But here we need to move this down because we're referencing this row only, right? Okay. If this is true, we're going to say return whatever value, which is 5 in that case. Here we can just return a 0, close that. Okay. Now we copy the second part of the argument. We're going to replace that for the 0. So what we're saying is, when this is evaluated as true, we're going to use the index match to find the charge. And if it's not true, which is beyond 3, we're going to use this way to manage the calculation, which has two parts: below or equal to 1 kilogram and beyond 1 kilogram. I just need to realign those things, because when you copy the formulas, it's always attract to the current row. Now, if I hit enter, I can then drag this back to here. So now I have formulas across 3 cells, always the same, but they reference different rows. So that's our formulas. If we click here and check the formula, 3 parts. The first argument provides true or false. If it's true, gonna be this part, index match. If it's not true, we're gonna use the XLOOKUP, find the additional charge. And the first kilogram gonna be the column F charge. And that's pretty much how we calculate the freight. Hope you enjoyed this session. See you guys in the next one.